Hello, everybody. We are live again for Surviving Quarantine by Spreading Life. And I'm so excited today because I have Jen here. Jen is somebody that I met at a conference, and the conference was about, I would say, about compassion for people or caring for people first mentality. And so we clicked it off. If anybody has seen any of these, you know that I'm a very people person. And one of the things that she talks a lot about is resilience. So I am so excited for Jen to join us today and get into the conversation about resilience. How can we be better after this? And how can we make sure that we gauge ourselves during this time period as well? So let's get started. Jen, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself in just a sec, but I want to thank you, Emily, because you have put so much into doing these lives, and I hope people appreciate them because you're taking time out of your busy mom, business owner day to do this. So thank you. And then also thank you for letting me talk about resilience, because the more I talk about it, the more it reinforces my need to be resilient. Because as we were talking about before, we were having some rough days with balancing the business and kids and everything. So thank you. I'm Jen Arnold. I'm owner and a founder of Redesigning Wellness, and I really try to help organizations and wellness professionals integrate wellness within their organizations instead of it being kind of this standalone, siloed program.
And I love that. And that's one thing I think me and you, whenever we did, it's that the breaking down silos is something that's really big with us. And going forward with this, let's talk about resilience. And it can be found in homework or play. And during this time, what does the definition of resilience? If people have never even heard, they may have heard it, but they really don't know what it is.
Right. So yeah, there's different definitions. The American Psychological Association is how do you really grow, thrive, adapt in periods of significant sources of stress, threat, trauma, kind of what we're going through now. And, whenever I train, I use the definition of the acquired ability to not get knocked off balances when challenges happen, right? Before COVID-19, they may have been more minor challenges, but right now, we really, that American Psychological Association definition just rings true, because we're all facing some kind of significant source of stress and threat, right, and uncertainty. So that is the definition. And I like to talk about it not, we want to bounce back, but in an ideal world, which I know we're not living in one now, how do we actually grow, and how do we actually kind of learn and thrive in this situation? Maybe if we're not feeling like we're thriving now, what can we learn, and how can we grow our skill set as we go through this and make it through?
So what are some practical tips that people can do right now to be able to build their resilience? Because it is a muscle. I think it's a muscle, and that it's something, if you practice it every day or do some practical aspects for you, what are some things that people can do?
Yes, and it is. You're so right, Emily. It's an acquired skill set. Like, there's people that are born resilient, but I don't say I was born with these skills and I've had to learn them over time. There's quite a few, and I'm going to get kind of the basics out of the way, because I think we hear this, but I want to relate it to resilience. But one is self-care, and in particular sleep, because it's almost like our support system for resilience. If we are not sleeping well, and this, people know this, right? And if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're maybe drinking more, not getting out there into nature and exercising, and some people can't, right? If you're in New York, you're not doing that, but sleep and self-care is really important, because if we don't do that, then how are we going to be resilient, right? It's kind of that's basics. Secondly, I like to say feel the feels, like feeling our emotions and being okay with feeling our emotions. There's different people out there now, and everyone's got their advice for us, right? So, some of it I've heard is, kind of, now's the time, here's the opportunity for us to be super productive and get all that stuff done we want to do. And that's fine for some. You may be in that headspace. And, some days you're lucky. You're lucky to get anything done with all you have to manage. And I just say, for everyone, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. Like, because I think the advice sometimes is like, just be optimistic or be positive. Well, I'm sorry, forget that. I don't feel like being positive in that route. I want to be I want to just be in it.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, that you can be in it, and I think you can be in it for however long you need to be in it, but at some point, it's not going to be very productive, right? So, and so a common strategy is to name your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So you can name it, you can tame it. I'm sure you've heard that, but really getting down to the root of what it is. Like, so if you're feeling, talking to somebody who's working with healthcare workers, and right now they're feeling super angry. Like their emotion may be anger because they're like, why, I'm on the front lines, I'm making do with not enough swabs and not enough hospital gowns. But when you get down a little further into the feelings, then maybe it's more uncertainty, maybe more overwhelm, maybe it's feeling like insecure about your safety. So when you get down into those more very specific emotions, then you're more likely to be able to kind of do something more productive with it. So I'll summarize that and kind of feel the feels, do what you need to do. Like it's okay to feel how you're feeling. And then when you're ready to start kind of naming it and then come out of it and wanting to do something with it, then that would be a strategy for when you're ready to move on from that feeling.
Yes. And I think one thing that I heard that was really, it's like we're all in the same storm, but we're on different boats. And knowing what boat you're in, we may be in a yacht, some people may be in a kayak, and it's how it hits us and how it impacts us. And I think the one thing that you pointed on is sleep. I love that because sleep is very, if anybody's seen my things, y'all know I'm a physiologist, so, and how it affects what is called serotonin, the safety cop of the body. And so you're already having these times where there's uncertainty, and with uncertainty, people make up their own things in their brain a lot of times. So it already adds to the stress. And so the importance of sleep is something that I feel like some people miss out on, but it's one of the top. Water and sleep are like right there for me. Those are some of the top things that people can do. So acknowledging that.
Yeah, if I don't get enough sleep, like I yell at my kids a lot more. Let's just say I have my moments too. That it's like, okay. And I know that when I'm not sleeping well, then it's just my fuse is much shorter. And so that's something that I know I can do. And I think that gets to a couple other strategies, or to think about acceptance. Kind of, I think just acknowledging that this sucks. Like coronavirus, it sucks. Know what? Maybe someone's liking it out there, and if you like it, please let me know. Come reach out to me and let me know.
Put it in the comments.
Hey, if you were loving it, that is fine too, right? And just as you said, Emily, like same storm, different boats. We're all experiencing things very differently. A common thread is that most people think this sucks, and so sometimes when we get into when we're not accepting and we're almost resisting, then we just get into that head game of you just wake up and go, it sucks, I can't go out, I can't do that, can't do that. And you're thinking of all the things you can't do. And the concept of acceptance is just saying, I'm not going to resist it anymore. I'm going to say, yes, coronavirus sucks, and here's what I can do to make it a little bit better. And coronavirus has shifted a lot of plans for everyone, including myself. Like I had this big plans, we moved in the process. There's like literally moving boxes behind me.
Yep.
And we are homeless. We're living with my dad right now. And I say that like we're very lucky. But we don't have a home. We sold our home. We were lucky enough to sell it right before pretty much when the virus hit. And so our plans to RV for 6 months and to go move to California are they're postponed, but they may not happen, right? And so I had to say, this kind of sucks. Like, but if I keep resisting it, and if I keep kind of bumping up against it, then it's not helpful, right? It's just going to kind of bring me further down, and it's not going to let me kind of be resilient to everything that's going on.
And I think too, another thing we should talk about is guilt. So we talked earlier about mom guilt before this, that our guilt that we have, but then also the people that I have talked to that is liking this time, they have guilt too. And it's like, I feel guilty because I'm actually happy I get to spend time with my family when everybody else is in their misery. So I think a big part of, like you said, with resiliency is naming your emotions, but how can we deal with them too afterwards? So with this guilt, what guilt should we accept, and should we accept any of it?
Well, I mean, you can't. So I think it just depends on kind of where the guilt's coming from, right? So we were talking earlier that if other people are making you feel guilt, not making you, or saying things and you're internalizing those and you're going, yeah, I really should. And we'll use the example of children. And I was sharing an example of a wellness professional who their kids like, Mommy, you always work. Or my kids said that to me, like, you're always working. And when you look at the reality of it, I'm working a lot less now because I can't work as much. And so I could either internalize that and go, yeah, you really should work less. Or I could say, yes, I'm working. I need to make sure that we have eventually a roof over our heads and we're able to have food and all these things that we need. Work is a part of life. I enjoy my work. And I could instead show him maybe I could be a role model, right? Doesn't mean that there won't be some guilt, but at some point, I don't have the luxury or desire not to work, right? So, and sometimes other people put that on you, right? That external guilt. So I just say, again, when you hear that, and how are you internalizing it? What are the thoughts that come up for you? And can you reframe that in any way that will help you go, okay, well, they said this about me. What's true? What's not? And then move
and
on.
I think we talked about that another one about killing the ants. And it is basically automatic negative thoughts. And it just basically is it true? Then you ask, is it really true? And then you find evidence on it. And I think that's something too that I have tried to lean into. Right now, we talked earlier, today is my daughter's birthday, and it is not going as planned. And I have not guilt from other people, but my internal guilt, because this is not this is the first day I'll have to say that and I told you this earlier, I said, I took a shower and I just cried my eyes out because I couldn't give somebody that I love so much something that I felt like they deserved. And so in that space of, I could keep in that emotion, but what good is it going to do?
Right.
And so, but I think the thing that you pointed out is feeling that emotion and acknowledging. And I think for something that I have done is told people I'm exhausted. And let's talk about that. Telling your crew, telling your people. It's not like you want to tell the world. We call them priority people. So like your top 3 people, tell them how you're feeling. Talk about the importance of having a community to rely on.
Yes, it is so important right now to have a support system just to lean on, to be your full self with, right? So if you want to say that, hey, I just need to show up and I need to be here and just say, this is how I am, and knowing that you're not going to be judged, if you don't have that, then it can cause a lot of pressure on you and you just need some kind of release valve, right? If you don't have that, then I encourage people to write or journal. Which is not my thing. I'll be the first to say I'm not a journaler, but I like talking it out, right? That helps me. That's why I have a podcast and not a book right now. But having some kind of outlet. So whether that is a really good support network that you can trust, whether that is writing or journaling or having a coach or a therapist that you can talk to, but you need something, because when you do bottle it up, then suppressing your emotions is very unhelpful in so many ways. And so, just going back to you and your daughter's example, that good for you that you cried, because I know you were saying earlier, you're pretty stoic and you're pretty you're the strong one, right? You have that vision of yourself, or that's who you are, is a strong one. But being okay with crying and saying this sucks, right? This isn't how I envisioned it. But then kind of going, okay, well, I can now show up for my daughter in a way that is helpful, right? But she also she just wants to be with you and the family, right?
Yep. And that's it. And I think that was is like the expectations. Nathan, you commented on what's the topic again? So he said that he was late to it. We're talking about resilience and just how in this time, not just how to bounce back, but like how to be better from this and not get what you said, Jen, is not getting knocked off course per se, or not being let it out. We can't keep it in.
So right, Nathan. Well, one other thing I want to address that has been super helpful with, for me personally, and some of the people I've talked to, is our span of control. right? You've seen this a lot. There's infographics out there. But oftentimes, like everything's uncertain. Like we don't know when we're getting back to the next step. We don't know what that next step looks like. We don't know how long we're going to be in quarantine, like et cetera, et cetera. And we're trying to plan things that we don't know how to plan for. And that wreaks havoc on our brain. Our brain does not like uncertainty, right? It likes familiarity. It likes knowing what's going on. It likes knowing the next steps. So our brains are really out of whack. And so the best thing that we can do for ourselves is really just go, okay, what can I control? And that has been the simplest thing for me, because I remember when it first hit and I was like, what can I do? Like, I feel lost. Like, how can I help? Can I help? Is now the right time to help? Etc. And I've seen some people go down some deep rabbit holes being empathetic, which the wellness crew, we're very empathetic people, like almost to a fault. And I'm not, okay, so I just want to be clear. I'm not saying don't be empathetic, right? Be empathetic. But one thing I've seen is like people fall into these kind of pits of despair because they're going, and there's this population and this, and everyone's suffering. And then you're just sitting there and it's not helpful for anyone, right? Because you feel so out of control. You feel like you can't control anything. So then you're empathetic because it's not helping anyone. Right? So I always just go back to, so I was talking to somebody who works with healthcare workers, and I was just like, just get them to think about what is one thing in their control, right? What is the one thing that they can react to at every moment? And I think that can help people. So I don't know if that resonates with you at all.
Yeah, and I've found gratitude. So one thing that we've been doing is at the dinner table, all of us say one thing that they're grateful for the day. And it's just for us to be able to reset ourselves for a moment and find something good in the chaos, per se. So talk about gratitude and its tool. I call it a secret weapon all the time.
Yeah.
So, talk about it.
Yeah. So the way that the one practice that resonates with me is the 3 good things practice. Yeah, you've heard of it. So it's pretty common now, which is exciting. There's research done from Martin Seligman, Brian Sexton, most recently with healthcare workers. But our brain's wired to be more negative. So we are more likely to remember negative things that happen. You get a sea of great comments, and then you think about that one negative one. That's just, our brains have this thing called a negativity bias. And so one way to almost retrain our brains to look for the positive is at the end of the day to go back and say, what are 3 good things that happened today? And then what's my role in making it come about? Like, how did I influence those 3 good things? I love gratitude. And again, I talk about what works for me. And one thing, like I tried writing gratitude journals every day. And I was like, I'm grateful for this and this. And it never worked for me because it was like the same stuff over and over. But the 3 good things just made it be very specific to that day. So even if I woke up and had the crappiest day ever, I could look back and go, okay, well, it was beautiful outside and I got to enjoy nature. Like you have to sometimes search really hard for these things. But the point is you can almost always find things, and that can help kind of it's actually shown from research to boost your positivity, to actually help you sleep better. And then it also starts helping you automatically start looking for more positive than negative in the day.
I love that. And one of mine, the Nun study, I don't know if you've ever read that one. It's one of my favorite of all times. And it was talking about, basically they looked at how they spoke and the gratefulness and gratitude they had before they went into the convent at 22. And then they looked at their longevity. And basically the people that had more gracious writing and more gratefulness predicted their lifestyle. And one thing that we talk about is we want people to quit smoking. Straight up, we do like that. But if you actually increase your gratitude, you increase your life by 17%, compared to smoking is only 5%. And so it is a superpower that a lot of people, I wish, I don't know if you know the Life is Good company. Church, that's actually what their parents did for them. And that's how they came up with the Life is Good, is because every morning the mother had them say something good.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So there's a lot of great things. But Nathan I've come to the realization normal may not be good thing. Was normal working before?
Such a good point. Yeah, right. We do say this new normal, right, Nathan? Yeah, but there were a lot of things that probably weren't working that well before. And I think, kind of going back to that acceptance, kind of tying in gratitude, until you kind of accept the situation we're in now, then I don't think you can really be grateful, right? Because you're just resisting it and resisting it. So, but one of the things that when I had to kind of regroup with what was going to happen, then that was a lot easier than to go, wow, God, I'm really lucky. I had a place to go. I'm at my dad's. I've got, he can help with the kids. I've got a workspace. Like there's all of these things that started coming up instead of thinking of all the things that I was mad about, right? Or that didn't work out as planned.
And I see his next question too, and it is, that's how we feel at times too. I'm just pushing positivity all day, but it's draining, and it can be. How do you refill?
So I want to say two things about this. One thing is you got to be careful about, and I know you probably didn't mean it this way, Nathan, pushing positivity, because there are some times where I don't want someone to come up to me and go, you should really be positive, right? I know you're not doing that, Nathan. So I'm taking this out of context, but I think there are some people that aren't ready to be positive right now. And I think that's okay. If you phrase it in a question to say, did anything go right? Did anything go right today? Is there anything that you are happy about? Can help. But how do you personally refill? I think what is really important is kind of getting to that self-care and that relaxation. There's something called the pressure performance curve, and I don't have a graphic of it right now, but we all have a certain kind of breaking point, if you will, to where we have almost too much stimulation, and then we go into this overwhelm and burnout. So Nathan, before you get to that point, it is really important for you and us all to do some things that are kind of comforting to us, right? So I always encourage people to have a list of things that light them up, right? Or that fill them up, if you will, that refill you, even if it's just a really short time, right? So is it listening to a song? Is it looking at a picture? Is it looking outside at the greenery? Is it texting someone to say, hey, how are you? So giving yourself that time before you're kind of drained can be super helpful. And Emily, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had this or not, especially in my beginning years in the wellness. I equate it back to Harriet Tubman. So it's like we have this cup, and she got this feeling of breaking through slavery. She's like, yeah, she's like everybody, and she actually went back because she knows the feeling of freedom, and she wanted everybody. But whenever she went back, people they liked their situation, and they did not know how to get out of it. And so the thing is some people don't want to empty their cup to put what you have in it. And being very thoughtful and knowing that their perception is the reality. And it's hard. It's hard, especially with like we know things that will make people's lives better. We have information, we've lived it, and we know the difference that it can make. But some people, it's deeper issues. It's childhood. It can go deep down to childhood and why their cup is the way they are. So as long as you keep pouring, making sure that you have people to fill you up too, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's big. I have Terry that said, I do think this whole pandemic has opened a lot of people's eyes. That's a major amen to that.
It forces you into a new viewpoint that you couldn't have seen or wouldn't have seen before.
Yeah.
I agree too.
And then I love the idea of identifying what the root emotion really is and then how to deal with it. And Mandy, she is actually a healthcare worker too. So I know right now, like front lines, I've always said personally that healthcare is so much different because one, there's stress. So cortisol is the stress hormone of the body. And it shuts off our learning centers of our brain. And nobody wants to come to a hospital. So you already have people that walk into your doors and they hate that you're there, like they hate to be there. And now you have this different stressor of healthcare workers that they don't even know how the answers because they typically have that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something too that we could quickly talk about on how can we help specifically healthcare workers in this space that they typically have the answers. They can understand and can deal with stress really well. But this is to a different level.
It is, yeah. So a few things come up. So Mandy, one good resource to label your emotions is something called the mood meter. MOOD. It's an app that you can get, and it can help you just go, how am I feeling right now? And there's like a gazillion answers on there, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't know there's this many emotions. That's one way just to kind of check in with yourself. And then they also have like activities you can do to calm yourself or soothe yourself. You can pick for some, or you can add your own. I think it's always going into that, what can your locus of control, what can you control? Having that support, because the hard thing about healthcare workers that I've seen is that it's almost like you may have been going into this COVID-19 crisis with a sense of burnout before, and now it's almost like you're numb to it. What can you do to build a support with the other people you work with, where you can kind of openly talk about it? So that is one. And so one of the silver linings that I heard from another healthcare organization, and sometimes it's hard to see silver linings because you're like, again, like, this is not fun. I don't like this. But one silver lining they said was, at least the cases of incivility were down, because what they were facing was that they had family members in there who were actually causing problems, and like cussing at the nurses, cussing at the doctors. And she's like, well, now that there's no family members in there, hey, no one's getting hit or punched. Silver lining. The other thing, is going. One of the things I suggested is, because what I've seen in healthcare situations is that some people are very used to this, and then some other healthcare workers are having to get used to maybe running the critical care. They're getting things that they're not used to doing. Is how can you learn from the people who are used to that? Maybe the ER folks, or the people, like, how can you get some skills? Like, how do you handle it? Because this is hard, and just acknowledging it's hard. And I think there almost needs to be, when this is all over at some point, some kind of one of Tracy, who's one of the members of a class that I'm teaching, was saying, like, there almost needs to be this grieving process when this is done. Is like, this is really serious, and need to acknowledge that it's almost like this big event happened, and we can't just go back to kind of, I know, Nathan, you said don't say new normal, but this new normal, right? Yeah. And acknowledge that it happened. One more thing. So Nathan, you may be gone, but the app is the Mood Meter, MOOD. I don't get any kickbacks. It's just it's a great app. I've got it on my phone, and I talk about it in every resilience training. So
that's awesome. And I greatly appreciate you, Jen, so much. It's such great content. And I know it has definitely helped people, and because this is a lot of uncertainty right now, but it does allow us also to see the things that we can control. So, and in that uncertainty, and our attitude, and how we see life, and what we can name it, and how we can claim it, I guess you'd say, in it. So I greatly appreciate you for coming on and giving us a great talk. You're such a blessing, and you're always awesome to talk with and get to know more. And if you will, give out your information, or not your email, your website, so if anybody is interested.
Sure. Redesigningwellness.com. And I actually have 7 free resilience videos that are up. So as soon as you go to redesigningwellness.com, there is a link that says free videos for your employees. Just click on that, and you can watch all 7.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all that watched. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Terry and Nathan. This is a great talk. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you all for joining on, as always. I hope you have an awesome and blessed day.
Thank you.